Hi and good morning. It's Jim from maverickstar Observatory. In this video I just wanted to help you understand what is creating the situation for all these new global floods that are taking place and why such records are being broken now more than ever recorded. And what I wanted to do in this video is just break it down so that you can understand the exact mechanism of what is triggering all this. Now, off the top of my head, you can see what we're looking at, so you've got a bit of an idea. But I've got a couple of other charts for you to have a look at. They're not all flow charts. We're going to look at the water cycle and the precipitation causes. But in general, we know what's going on, we know what's on the increase, and it is going to get worse, and as a result of it getting worse, it's going to put demand on where we live and settle now and in the future, and on global crop production. So before we begin, just a big thanks to those few people that support the observatory. We're a private funded observatory by the general public, and the reason for that is we don't want people putting pressure on us, telling us what we can tell others in our uploads and on our website. So it's an independent website, and all the research that we conduct is independent, and we focus, if you've been following us for the last 10 years now, we focus on one specific key aspect of all these anomalies that are taking place in this modern world, and that is the magnetic reversal. So let's begin. You've seen this if you've been following me before. It's just a flow chart showing us what the general causes of global climate change are. I'll just quickly go through them. So we know that we're in a grand solar minimum, and that means that is our sun is in a low solar output in regards to things like sunspots. Well, this leads to a weakened heliosphere, which is a bubble that protects our solar system, and when it weakens, it shrinks back in on the solar system, and as a result, more galactic and intergalactic cosmic radiation is inbound. Adding to this, we are facing a very rare anomaly. Last time a completed reversal took place was 780,000 years ago, so we're in a magnetic reversal. This leads to a weakened magnetosphere, and this is our primary defense against cosmic rays. So we are seeing a reduction of around about 20, maybe a little bit more percent of the total field strength of our magnetosphere that protects us from cosmic rays. Now, cosmic rays do other things. We will leave that for another day. We'll look at the health aspects of, more radiation coming down to the surface. But for now, what we're going to do is just concentrate on the effects it has on the climate and how we're affected in turn. So cosmic rays mix with other atmospheric particles that allow water vapor to condense on, forming water droplets. Eventually, when the water droplets get too bigger, they fall from the sky. The water drops also enter the jet streams, increasing the mass and the velocity of the jet stream, in turn changing the behaviour, i.e. polar jet streams mixing with subtropical jet streams sets up abnormal jet streams, and that changes in turn the global climate. Now I want to show you, I want to go back to at the top of this flow chart where it leads to an increase in cosmic rays, and the effects of those cosmic rays in the upper atmosphere, so you get a better idea as to why these two anomalies, the grand solar minimum and the magnetic reversal, are changing our climate. And this is something that you're not going to hear on mainstream media for some reason. I think that's because they want to push the agenda of global warming, and as a result, blame man for adding CO2 into the atmosphere, which is a greenhouse gas. But the problem is, we've discussed this many times, haven't we? The amount that man actually puts up into the atmosphere is minuscule and not enough to change the climate on its own. When we look at the millions of gigatons of CO2 being naturally put up into the atmosphere, we see that our impact is minimal. So let's have a look at one of the key elements then, which is setting up the response for the other half of this flowchart to take place. So in this diagram, it gives us an idea of where these key important elements are, with regards to altitude, and on the right hand side just gives us a few important facts. So cloud droplets are 20 micrometers in size, which is very small. You can see where they start to form at what altitude. And the important thing is here is many condensation nuclei are present in that higher altitude, and what cosmic rays do is form condensation nuclei. So if we've got more radiation inbound in our upper atmosphere, there's going to be a lot more condensation platforms. It's going to make it easier for clouds to form. And then as things start to come a little bit closer to the surface, things start to get a lot bigger. So the tiny particles fall more slowly than large ones. A cloud droplet diameter must grow 200 times to reach a raindrop's diameter. So you imagine that it's already at the higher altitude started to form, and then it's going to grow 200 times more to form a single raindrop. So we're talking very, very tiny nuclei, which is cosmic radiation, can cause cloud nuclei. And as we go further down, to attain the volume of a rain droplet, the cloud droplet increases to around a couple of millimeters. They can also grow as they come further and further down by collision simply. And this is why we're getting a lot more rain in the jet streams and cloud nuclei in the jet streams. And what happens then is when you have too much travelling in the jet streams, they become fragmented, like I've showed you a few times on North Skull. We can see the fragmentation that has been increasing over the last, say, 20 years, and it is becoming more sporadic. Problem is with this is that we'll have a look at the water cycle now. I'm sure most of you will be familiar with, but I just wanted to show you the connection between cosmic rays, and you know that the cosmic rays are real. I could show you the increase that we've got right now, but more importantly, it's the cosmic rays that form the nuclei which allow those condensations to start in the first place. If you've got more cosmic radiation in the upper atmosphere, you're going to get more condensation nuclei, and therefore the raindrop is going to start to grow from that point and end up in the jet stream, which is what is going to fragment the jet stream. We're going to get interchange with polar and subtropical, and when you start having those things, the temperature changes very quickly, and that's what causes flash floods that we see. But I just want to show you now the water cycle and how that works. And like I say, I'm familiar that and confident that a lot of you people will be familiar with that, but it's just nice to tie that in. So this is 101 water cycle, if you like. It starts over on the left hand side. So evaporation from the oceans, lakes and streams rises, you get water vapour go up into the atmosphere, condensation starts to form, especially when we have extra cosmic radiation inbound up there causing that nuclei. This travels over and then when it cools down forms precipitation, and we get surface rain runoff, and groundwater reservoirs fill up, and rivers transport that rain off out into the oceans again, and the cycle begins. But the important part where we're concerned is where the evaporation takes place, transports that water vapour up into the atmosphere, where it condensates on that radiation or cosmic rays. Because of the nuclei is already there, there's a platform for it to start condensating on, and then we get more abundance of rain forming in the clouds, which in turn is moved by the jet streams. When you get subtropical jet streams mixing with polar jet streams in close proximity, we get warm air mixing with cold air. That means that the water droplet can fall a lot faster because the cloud can't hold as much water vapour or water droplets because of its temperature is changed. So what this chart shows us is that this is really happening. Here is the evidence that I'm presenting, right? First of all, we can see sunspots declining, but at the same time we see sunspots declining, we see the cosmic radiation increasing. 2014, we can see there wasn't enough strength even to block out during, so at solar maximum, the normal amounts that is blocked out during solar maximum. The cosmic rays still kept coming through even though we was at solar maximum, which is unusual, because if you look at the 2 previous solar cycles before that, you can see that even at them weakened moments of the maximum, there was still enough energy in the system to push away that cosmic radiation. If we go to where we are today, there isn't enough to even at solar maximum push out that radiation. So we can see that the upper atmosphere is getting saturated by more radiation, and it is down to 2 things: a weakened magnetosphere due to the pole shift, and a weakened heliosphere, which is allowing more cosmic radiation in due to a low solar output. So there's the evidence and the facts. What I want to do now is to show you on null score what is taking place with our jet streams today live. Just before we go over to null score and have a look at the jet streams live, just want to show you where they should be. So you can see at 30 degrees north we've got the subtropical jet stream. When we go further north to 60 degrees, we have the polar jet streams. This is the normal standard template as to where our jet stream should be, and we've got an image of a frozen picture of null score just showing you the polar jet stream coming down into the subtropical region. That's bringing Arctic climate into a tropical region, so there is going to be some effects there with regards to precipitation at those points of contact. And we'll have a look now at the fragmentation that's taking place with our planet, and this is why, in turn, we're getting those floods that we're seeing regularly. I could have showed you clips today. I mean, we're seeing floods now nearly every day in the world. Some are being reported on, some are not, but people are losing their entire livelihoods, things that they've worked for all their lives. Farms are going out of business, and that all independent, that all important food bowl, the world's food production is being affected, and we are going to start seeing as a result of that, it hikes in food prices as we have done over the last 12 months. Some cases, certain foods have doubled in price, and it is because of supply and demand. When the supply becomes not so plentiful, the prices go up. When things are in demand and there's plenty of those, prices drop. It's the same situation we see in other markets. So we're over at null score looking at today's weather. Classic example, couldn't have chose a better time to come on, because over the northern hemisphere we see at 30 degrees and at 60 degrees what is taking place. We've basically got a lot of mixing of polar jet streams mixing with subtropical, and it's not a surprise that in the southwest of France over the last 48 hours they've had some more major flooding. Well, the reason for that is because of the interchange with those 2 jet streams, and they're broken down. They've been like this for a long time. This is another thing that is not really focused on in the mainstream media, or on other platforms. You rarely see them talking about these things, but this is, it can be predictable. You can predict when the jet streams start changing direction what is going to be likely to happen in those regions. Something else I will just say, that it's not just the jet streams that have been affected by the nuclei of cosmic radiation in the upper atmosphere, creating more water vapor in the clouds or in the jet streams. I mean, when we get this happen, we can see by the southern jet stream down there how wide it is and how long it is, and then you've also got that subtropical mixing with polar again taking place. That could lead to the reason why in southwestern Australia over the last 48 hours they have had severe flooding. So it's predictable. It's only going to get worse from this point out. and we can see what is the main mechanisms of this. It's not global warming caused by CO2. It's nonsense. What it is a factor of two things: a grand solar minimum and a Earth going through a unique anomaly that hasn't done so for many hundreds of thousands of years. As a result, we get the climatic changes taking place that we're looking at today. This is what you're not going to hear on mainstream media. You're not going to be explained to what the real causes are, and that is largely due to the level of corruption that we have in our world today. The corruption has led to some fantastic and very famous scientists in their fields walking away from science. And I think that is a massive crime when, we live in a world where the truth is completely ignored and is hard to get to the public so that they are informed. Generally, things are going to get worse because we haven't reached equilibrium with the pole shift, and we haven't started to see yet the sun increase in numbers and output activity. So things will continue to get worse, and they could, at the point of reversal, when the poles leave the strong field lines and into the weak field lines and start to migrate very fast, things could go completely out of sync and out of control, and the effects could be far more devastating than what they are now. So I hope in this video that you've learned a little bit, and it's made a little bit more clear as to what is taking place in our world. And we're going to continue trying to inform the public of the real truth here. What enables us to continue doing that is obviously a bit of support from our members, and we turn to the public for that. So if you want to help support our efforts in informing people and keeping you guys informed to the changes and the research that we're doing here, there's a link down there in the description box. Other than that, it is a time where it is a good idea to have some preparations for yourselves and your families, and that can come in the form of a short-term or long-term food supply and a bug out bag. Both of those things will get you ahead of the game if ever you wake up one morning, like a lot of surprised people are, finding all your belongings and property being washed away. The only other thing I want to invite you to think about, if you're thinking about moving to a new area, a new home, just have a look at the geology around you. Make sure you're not in a valley or a floodplain or something that's been carved out over thousands of years through weather erosion. And if you do that, you can prevent your house being washed away in the first place. Because we haven't seen floods in these areas for the last 100 years or so, it's been deemed okay to build on these sites. But trust me, the scars of the planet show us what has happened in the history of it, and it's not unlikely for that history to repeat itself. So a little bit of surveying on that area before you move into that new home, could save you a lot of discomfort and unpleasantness later on down the roads. Okay, link down there if you want to help support us. The only other thing to say is take care of your loved ones, as always. Bye for now.